Joining us now on the John Fredericks Radio Network is Brian Morgenstern. He is White House Deputy Communications. Brian, great to have you back, man.
Hey, John, thanks for having me. Good to be back.
So, Brian, I've got a lot to talk about today. I'm going to start with Amy Coney Barrett, the attacks against her, unbelievable, especially about adopting her two children from Haiti. People criticizing that, saying that it was for show. I mean, you bring two people into your home and you raise them and it's for show? What is wrong with these people?
It's really sick. I mean, and unbelievable. That's how rapidly political I think the left has started to see the court. But the fact is, she has sterling academic credentials. She has unquestioned professional credentials. She was unanimously endorsed by all of the Supreme Court clerks with whom she worked, and that's people all across the political spectrum. She was unanimously endorsed by the Notre Dame faculty. That's also people all across the political spectrum. Anyone who knows her knows that she is a smart, strong, compassionate woman, a working mom from the Midwest, which is just such a great symbol for the country and such a difference from what we usually see on the Supreme Court with just Ivy League educated, coastal folks. I mean, nothing against that, but right. A little bit of a different look, I think, is good when we have, judges on the highest court in our country. So she's a great nominee, and these attacks are really just out of desperation, and I think they'll do more to turn people off, actually, and turn more people in Judge Barrett's favor, by getting so ugly like that.
Brian, what do you think about the attacks on her Catholicism? I mean, I'm a Catholic. I'm a practicing Catholic. What does that say to people like me?
Well, I am too. It says that there's a large swath of this country that thinks that we are kooks and outside the mainstream. But if you think, that's just a sick way of looking at things. I mean, if you think that a person of faith cannot be a fair-minded judge, then you think basically every justice in the history of our country is a kook who can't be a fair-minded judge. Justice Scalia was not a wacko. He was a practicing Catholic. He was an excellent justice. Nobody asked Justice Ginsburg if she was going to be a radical Jewish justice because it's a ridiculous question. So what they're doing now to Judge Barrett, as I said, is just pure rank desperation because they know that they can't question her qualifications or her temperament as a jurist.
All right, how do we get this confirmation? I just want to ask you a question. I don't know why we're dragging this out, right? We're not starting the hearings until the 12th. That's a week from Monday. I don't really understand what that wait is. Then we're going to drag it out to the 26th. Why not just start it Monday and go? Half the Democrats have already said they're not even going to meet with her. They're turning it into a farce. Why is Graham dragging this out?
That, you'd have to ask Senator Graham. I will say from the president's vantage point, look, he acted quickly. He respected the legacy of Justice Ginsburg, but acted very quickly to nominate an outstanding candidate. We're pleased to see the Senate moving forward, fairly rapidly when you're looking at history. Right. It's not as fast as, say, Justice Stevens, who was confirmed in 2 weeks or something like that, but it is faster than most recent nominees. But what the American people need to be reassured of is that while this is a process that'll go fairly quickly, it probably could go a little faster. It could also go a little slower. It will be thorough and it will be fair, and we're going to have a well-vetted, well-qualified, excellent new justice on the Supreme Court, and we believe it'll happen before the election. That's the president's preference, and it looks like the Senate's moving in that direction, and that's a good thing.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We're with Brian Morgenstern, White House Deputy Communications Director. So, Brian, the other lines of attack here against Barrett, you got a religion, that's number one. You've got the fact that she adopted children from Haiti, which should be a wonderful thing. They're attacking that because, as you said, these people are just partisan and sick. It's beyond belief. Some of the other attacks we're getting against this nominee now are centered around the fact that she went to Notre Dame. How does going to Notre Dame or teaching there, how is that a reason to reject somebody?
I mean, they're getting creative, aren't they? So I guess if Notre Dame is not a bound, so would be Boston College, so would be Georgetown University, where I went to college. Villanova has religious affiliation. I mean, like, there are many places that have religious affiliation. Tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of Americans are people of faith. This anti-religious bigotry is absurd. It's poisonous for our country. And like I said earlier, I think it's going to turn more people off from the left than it will actually persuade them. I think it's going to really highlight Judge Barrett as a working mom, a person of faith, a person who represents really the best of our country. And that's exactly the type of person that we want on the court, who can be devoted to her family and devoted to her faith, and also a superb jurist, lawyer, and person who upholds the Constitution.
Let's get to the fact that Democrats are not meeting with her. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it speaks to the excellence of the nominee, that when the best they can come up with is, I'm going to take my ball and go home, that means you've done something pretty good. I mean, there is absolutely nothing that they have found that would be a basis for rejecting her nomination. So they just are harping on the process. They're saying it's not fair. It's not fair. Well, what's not fair? They lost the election. That's what they think is not fair. This isn't about Judge Barrett. So, it's unfortunate that they won't show her the respect of meeting with her and discussing judicial philosophy and discussing the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which are not partisan, or at least they shouldn't be. I wish they would show her that respect, but if they're not going to, I suppose that frees up more time in her schedule to prepare for the hearing and make sure that it's a slam dunk.
Well, it's almost like whatever, right? They're not going to vote for her anyway. It doesn't matter what she says, so the whole thing's a sham. So I'm with you on that one, Brian. Morgenstern gives her additional time to do other things that actually mean something. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Brian Morgenstern with us, Deputy White House Communications Director. Brian, let's get to the debate tonight. I know the president preparing for that with several people, but do you expect him to spend a lot of time on what he's done or what his manifesto is for a second term? How do you see this debate tonight, Brian?
Oh, I think it'll be some of each, and it'll be about contrast, because Biden was in Washington for 47 years, and the president has done more to improve people's lives in 47 months because he's a man of action. He created the most inclusive economy maybe in the history of our country. He has gotten out of the typical paradigm of endless wars, and he's forging new peace deals by taking a different approach. This overreacting about kind of Obamacare in the Supreme Court that the left is doing is fear-mongering that they've been doing for 30, 40 years. You can go back to justices in the 80s where they were saying they're going to take away your health care. I mean, they're playing by the same playbook. The president has knocked over that apple cart. He has expanded access. He has lowered costs. He has lowered taxes for people. He's made it. He's incentivized hiring in America. He has really kind of revolutionized the way Washington works by simply using common sense. He represents most Americans. So it will be very interesting to watch him draw that contrast with Joe Biden, who is still stuck in the past in the ways that really have hurt Americans, have shipped jobs away, and that people were fed up with. So the president will bring his strong record, his vision for the future, and his fantastic sense of humor, and it'll be really excellent television.
Well, I think the first half hour of this debate, I expect the president, as always, to be high energy. I remember the first debate with Hillary Clinton. I forget what it was, Hofstra. I think in the first 45 minutes of that debate, he just annihilated her. And I think he set the tone in that thing for the whole campaign. People were wondering. I mean, she was had a reputation as a great debater. She is. She's been around a very long time, very intelligent, quick on her feet. But I thought that the first 45 minutes of that Hofstra debate really set the tone for the election going forward. I look for the same thing tonight. Brian, let's get to his taxes. So let me just ask you two questions. Here's the first. The New York Times got these taxes. There's only two places they could have got them from. Somebody at the IRS, that would be breaking federal law, because that could happen to any of us, right? I mean, you're supposed to send your taxes. It's supposed to be private, or somebody within his organization that had a file with 18 of them. And that can only be like his tax lawyer or the senior accountant there who signed them. Almost impossible for them to do that because they'd be faced with being disbarred, long time in jail. Highly unlikely. So should we be concerned that we got somebody in the government that's leaking stuff to the New York Times that could affect any of us?
Well, as you say, we're not sure where they came from, if they are even the correct documents, because when the New York Times is asking questions of the president's lawyer about them, he said, well, can you show me the documents so I can see if they're even real? And they wouldn't show them to him. So, I mean, we just have no idea what's going on. The New York Times did almost the same story 4 years ago at almost exactly the same point in the election. The Democrats had ads up and running like immediately when the story broke. This is just such an obvious farcical political smear. And look, the fact is that President Trump has paid more in taxes in 1 year than Joe Biden has earned in his entire life, because the president has spent his career creating jobs, creating businesses, and Joe Biden has spent his entire career making money off the taxpayers. So, I mean, if you want to pick a fight over the president's taxes because his business is too successful and complicated, by all means, let's have that discussion. It's not going to go well for you.
Even if they, assuming they're true, and you know, you have to assume they are, because I doubt the New York Times would have taken $1 billion lawsuit risk that would have sunk their public company if they didn't have something that they at least thought was accurate. But even if it is, all the president did was follow the law that Biden wrote, because they're the ones that developed the tax code. So it's like, for the life of me, I cannot fathom what the problem is. You followed the law based on the law that Joe Biden and Steny Hoyer and Van Hollen, all these people, they're the ones that wrote the tax code. Like, what's the problem? Change it.
It's a great point. I mean, I don't know what they're getting at. I guess they're getting at people should donate money to the government. They should pay more taxes voluntarily. I mean, that's a pretty crazy suggestion. I don't see Warren Buffett or any of the other billionaires calling for higher taxes, voluntarily writing checks to the government. You know who is? President Trump. He's donating his salary to the government because, you know, he's a man of means. He's had a great career. He doesn't need it. He's working for the American people for free. So he's actually doing I guess what they're suggesting he should do. And they're still mad at him for it. That's how you know he just can't win with these people. They're just going to attack him no matter what he does. And that's what they're doing now. I mean, the fever pitch I've seen in the media is not just this story, John. It's hit pieces coming out every single day. I commented when I woke up this morning and read the news. I said, my goodness, it is silly season. I mean, it is just they're desperate, and they are convinced that, you know, maybe these polls that they are relying on are not so reliable, and that the president actually does have more support, because everywhere he goes, people are lining the streets to greet him and cheer for him. So, you know, they feel like there's something happening in our country, and they're trying to stop it.
Unbelievable, Brian, what is going on, this whole tax farce. As you said, it comes out in like within minutes. I'm watching the cable news channels here, and there's ads against the president minutes after the story hit. So obviously they coordinated it, and you're right. They could have taken the same story in 2016, cut and pasted the dates, and it's basically the same thing. This is, I mean, it's the same thing they did with the Atlantic magazine with that fake story. They just do fake stories and then do ads off it. Don't you think people are seeing through all this, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're so desperate, angry, and ham-handed at this point that the American people do see through it, and that's part of the reason the president was elected 4 years ago, because they're tired of being treated like they're stupid. The American people are not stupid. The one who had common sense and was speaking to them was President Trump, and that's what he's doing again, talking about how we need more jobs. The way we do that is set up the right incentives, the right trade deals, the right tax code, the right regulatory scheme. You know, I mean, these things are common sense, but then the left comes at you with fear-mongering and jealousy. It's based of envy, the New York Times thing. Oh, he didn't pay a lot in taxes. That should make you mad. Well, he doesn't want anybody to pay a lot in taxes. That's why he cut taxes, because he wants people to keep more of their money. So I think it's grasping at straws coming from the left, but people love the president. He's the one visiting them all across this country and showing them how much he respects them and how hard he's working for them. The other side is taking a lot of naps and just hoping that anti-Trump hate is going to push them across the finish line. I just don't think it works like that.
I think tonight's going to be an interesting night. The tax thing is a complete and utter clown show. And this is the thing we've been saying all day. I mean, the tax code is built around encouraging people to create jobs by taking risks. And so you have a 17-year window to carry over your loss. I've done that. I just started the newspaper with my radio show. I'm going to lose money. I mean, I'm going to certainly take the write-off going forward until it's profitable, because I created 5 jobs out of it. It's like, that's the way the tax code's written. If you don't like that, do a flat tax, and that's the end of it. Unbelievable. You know what? It's so stupid, Brian, that it's amazing that we have to go on the air and defend this stuff, but it is what it is. Hey, Brian, thank you for the time. Looking forward to tonight. Brian Morgenstern, Deputy Communications Director, White House. Thank you, Brian.